Whoa, whoa, whoa. Here we are again, and another week, another thing to talk about, but this time we have some new faces. So, Greybeard has decided he doesn't love us anymore, so he has left the country. Bruv has decided that he's in Johannesburg for whatever odd reason, and S. Falcon, well, he just doesn't love us anymore. So, as a no, I wouldn't call it a substitute because these men substitute for no one. These men answer for no one. It is Rhino in the middle, and on the right hand side, Sir Pegasus. How you doing, gents?
Oh, I am so excited to be here on Just SSAying once again, Bromeo. And just as it has always been the case, when SSA can't do it, you bring in the European imports, and we are here to absolutely bring the hype and bring the excitement for you. So that's exactly what we're going to do,
And
Pegasus.
I was
Yeah.
just actually, I was just saying because you just arrived and I was waiting for the import joke to be made, and we didn't
Yeah.
even make it a minute into the cast. So Pegasus,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't have any more of those.
I'll be honest, he completely stole the line right off me. I had the same idea in the back of my head, so I'm going to go a bit off course here. And of course, I live here in England, but I've got a little bit of heritage behind me, ladies and gentlemen. So for today, I'm going to be representing the
Oh,
great nation of Tanzania for some
Oh,
sub-Saharan
yeah.
Africa representation. How about that?
I mean, I'm so glad you said that because my flag knowledge isn't really where it's supposed to be. So
I
I'm
missed
I'm
something
so
there.
glad that I'm so glad that you didn't ask me where that is from. So Tanzania, I also apologize to every single one of you for not knowing that flag. That one's on me. That one is on me. But boys, we have quite a show ahead of us today. I wasn't actually planning on doing too much with this because Greybeard's away. He has entrusted me with the keys to his kingdom, and we're not planning on doing anything crazy, but crazy stuff may happen. I don't want to give too much away, but
Yeah.
there are also some things that we need to cover, and we're going to be talking a little bit about worlds just now. We're going to be talking about that one org that just posted earlier saying they have left the region. I know everybody wants to talk about that. We will get there. And we will also be talking just now to vibes from Counter Strike
Mm.
SSA. And I also fielded a lot of questions why, but this is a Rocket League podcast. Well, just wait. You'll find out. So, let's wait no further. Let's bring on Vibes. Let's create a little foursome here. You'll see Vibes in the bottom right there. Vibes, how are you doing?
Yeah, listen, the Rocket League community is alive and well as I'm staring at Twitch chat, yeah. Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me on. It's definitely a bit outside of my comfort zone, but we'll roll with the punches as we go.
And Vibes, I met you, in the back enjoying some very subpar coffee at Comic Con.
Filter coffee.
Yeah, no. While when it's coffee from an urn, the coffee is going to be terrible. So we were
Speak for
standing there
yourself.
in the morning, and we're both dying because I think this is like day 2 or day 3 of casting full days. So all of us look terrible. And we struck up a conversation, mostly about, why does CS get such a big stage? And why does nobody love Rocket League and all of that? And we actually got talking and discovered there are many similarities in the scene, but most of all that not all of the people from Counter Strike are bad.
Yeah, well, I'd hope so. 90+% of us are, though, to
I
be
was going
fair.
to say,
Like,
it's a high
yeah,
percentage.
you're ish. Yeah, the South African community, like most of us are fine, but internationally, I've heard from like people that work with like the pros, they do have big heads. So, yeah, I mean, they're not doing us well on the big stage.
So we're gonna go through a couple of topics. Feel free to jump in. I know that this isn't your forte, so we'll get around to the big arching questions as we go throughout. This is more of a vibes thing. It's funny because you know As his tag is vibes. Prod. One day we will put up vibes under his portrait, so my jokes hit harder, and there isn't so many crickets in the chat. Um, Speaking of chat, let's say hello to whoever's here. Keegs, we see you. Berserker, vibes is here. Obviously, he's sitting bottom right. Forward Hilux, Yoshi, Raids, who's sitting behind the scenes, making sure that all the buttons get pushed. Tubbsy, how's it going? Borky, what's up? And let's see who else. Sigma Boy 7643. That's an interesting one.
That's a name.
Hey,
One of the names of all time.
Good.
It is a name.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's one
Incredible.
hell of a name. How's it going, Hazza, Joshy, CPT, and I think that's it. Lately ZA. I think that's one of your friends there, vibes.
That is the guy that was sitting next to me on stage the whole Comic Con. Yes, that is him.
Can we get that picture up, Raids, of vibes at Comic Con, just so that people can see the kind of stage setup that they had compared to
That's the
ours.
reason.
I mean,
Yeah, that's the reason.
It's like, honestly, let's show them, because that is important, that we show the people the kind of setup that CS had compared to Rocket League. And Rocket
Yeah.
League, we come from humble beginnings, but let's see, Reds, are you winning? Are you finding it? Yeah, he's found it. He just needs to
getting
make
there.
it smaller now. He's getting there. But anyway, so take us through your experience at LAN, how you found it. Historically, how has LAN at VS been?
I mean, it's always been the pinnacle of South African Counter-Strike. We've, throughout the years, everyone knows that you can win whatever in between. The money can be better, but if you don't take home the LAN win, doesn't really matter. I mean, I think in Counter-Strike, and it's always been a thing that even from if we're talking back 20 years ago when CS just started, LAN is where you actually test, because there's no, inherently LAN is a lot better for an FPS. And that's always been the thing. And the only LAN we've consistently had over the past I want to say few years, but it's been a decade basically, has been Telkom VS. It's also, for a long while, it was the biggest prize pool. I still think it is, but yeah, there's so much money out of the scene at this point that, saying that's the biggest prize pool doesn't really matter, especially not to the Rocket League Oaks that's out here. We know what investment you guys get from Epic.
We're not saying anything, but you get a fancy stage. Speaking of fancy stages, Raid says the image ready. Let's bring it up. Let's have a look at it quickly.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. There's the man. And this is where the VS Bucks go to. That fancy couch. It looks so comfortable. I mean, just have a look at that image. You've got the, behind behind vibes, you've got the main screen, and left and right of that you got Counter-Strike players. I know, but on the
All five of them.
far right,
We have 5.
if you look there, if you look on the far right, that is the Rocket League screen. So we were right next to each other. And it was really funny, because we were complaining the whole weekend that all I heard were flashbangs and SMGs being fired. And then lo and behold, I check social media, and everybody is like, but we can hear the Rocket League boys. You can hear Graveyard. You can, why are they so loud? And fact of the matter is, we were punching hard because, our allocated space and speakers wasn't even close to what CS had. So I thought it was funny. We were both complaining about the same thing.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of everyone complaining about Greybeard, it's not really the fact that he had you guys had worse speakers than us. He was just shouting loud enough over the speakers that you could pick it up. No amplification needed.
Yeah.
I mean, we have passion over in Counter-Strike, but Greybeard's unmatched.
Yeah, honestly, man has some pipes on him, and I was watching back the VOD, and lo and behold, every time there was a good play, Greybeard was in the background. I was like, yeah, that happened. That totally happened. But let's cover a little bit of ground before anything else. We'll come back to you, Vibes. Let's talk quickly about RSC this week. Let's cover week number 2. We're heading into week 3 now. The games have been scheduled, and it seems once more Death Cloud is on top. Rhino, Pegasus, do you have anything for this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in initially, just because obviously it's been a pleasure to be presenting the RSC streams over the last couple of weeks. That will change. Greybeard will be back, so don't you guys worry about that. But Death Cloud have looked fantastic. They had a double game week show last week. They won both of those games, if I remember rightly. And they've been pretty much on top for the entire season. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from each and every one of their tiers so far, and they just seem to have put together some really good rosters. So in an RSC season in SSA where we have so many big names now as far as the organizations go, Death Cloud holding their own, and I know Space Crisp is going to be sat at home very, very happy with the performance of his boys.
And just having a look there, the 2 purple orgs are on top. Death Cloud, Cosmico following close in second. A game win behind. Do you think, Pegasus, the color purple bears any bearing on performance?
Well, I used to be part of an organization that wore the color purple, so I think I'm forced to agree in this instance that yes, there's absolutely power behind purple. And, I've been very impressed with Death Cloud just overall as an organization, because they were always kind of around the scene in a lot of these grassroots tournaments. And then they popped up once RSC, already won a tier, moved over to SSA, built up a fantastic team as well for the RLCS, and overall, I'm just really impressed with where they've came from.
And just having a look here as well, Ox Gaming surprisingly doing incredibly well. I say surprisingly with the most love as possible, because heck, he's such a lovely guy.
Wow.
But honestly, and this is actually something I wanted to lean into is we had a clip from Ox Gaming Villabius earlier on in the week from the last stream. I actually wanted to put it up here because slowly but surely the amount of clips that we're getting out of an RSC week is looking fantastic. And I know that you were on the broadcast as host, sitting in the background watching things, Rhino. Were there any like peak moments from that stream that you really enjoyed?
Oh my goodness! Now you're asking. Now you're asking me to remember something that happened days ago, which is
like
which
days,
is
absolute days,
absolute days, brother.
Absolutely. And if you want, I can just refresh your memory with the games that were played.
I would love. I remember there was a master game that happened as the game number 3. I'm just having a look, trying to remember which game it was.
So the first game was Prospect. It was Azura Gaming versus Death Cloud. And second was Monarch versus Death Cloud as well. Third game was Master, Shadow Esports versus Ox Gaming. And then the fourth game was another Prospect game, Omnius versus Monarch. So the clip I'm about to bring up here, and let's just see if Raids has it ready. He does. This was Shadow Abyss versus Ox Gaming. Guys, tell me, Max absolutely popped off in this game. Let me know what you think.
I mean, Max was great the whole time. It'll be interesting to see how we get on with this. Let's take a look at it. But
set himself up, but
it was a great stream.
Not able to finish the job. Now Max has that control. He's not moving his way across the He snaked straight past. Oh,
that dribble from your own half is
no, he somehow manages to twist and turn his way
and
straight past Scrappy.
Rhino, you've casted some CS before, and Vibes, sitting here.
Oh, that was sexy.
Please, not knowing the true capability of the players. How would you describe that in CS terms?
Oh, oof. Well, I'll give it a go first, Vibes, and you can tell me how I do, all right? So Max picks the ball up pretty much in spawn, right? And he was going through mid, right? And he was basically just taking down opponent after opponent in mid, right? Clicking heads as he went through, and eventually he was able to find the finish, find that final kill, get that last little touch, and and that was enough to win the round for them and secure the dub. So there you go. That's all I'm going to be able to get at the moment. Vibes. I mean, there's you see it?
Yeah, it's peak donk audacity, isn't it? Just going down mid, rifling everyone down, having absolutely zero cares in the world for what's in front of them, and somehow it's all working out. That's from my very, very low CS knowledge. That's the example I could bring up here.
Vibes, does it check out? Does it pass?
No, I mean, listen. The thing is, like, I think what people underestimate about Rocket League is it looks so simple sometimes. Now I can, because I have very limited experience, but I've at least tried to play the game. You can clearly, like, it's even more impressive if you have limited experience than if I actually knew what was going on, if that makes sense, you know? Yeah, it's kind of like watching Messi, you know? You're like, oh, this guy has to be good because you just dribbled past 5 oaks and then put a top ins. Like, it's the same logic to me because that's what that looked like. And then, I mean, Donk is... comparing anyone to Donk is kind of crazy, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, well, he did pick it up like halfway through his own half and then put it in. So yeah, I'd say they did a pretty good job. There would have probably been more shouting from my part, but that's the only thing.
Then, but you know what? I actually just wanted to talk about this because in esports we love to be divisive. We love talking about why our scenes are different and why one is better over the other. And I found ourselves enjoying that really, really subpar coffee at Comic-Con. And standing and thinking, we actually got a lot in common. We have personalities in the scene who are very good at the game, but very bad for PR. We have so much passion. We have so much passion for the scene, and we just want to make it do well. And we're talking about the fact that Rocket League is actually in a really privileged position right now. And that's also one of the things I wanted to touch upon is what would be, Vibes for you. What is the current state of affairs of CS in SSA?
One is like we have an inherent problem with the SSA part, right? Like we are mostly South African based. I can think of 2 players from Namibia. And we had one guy from Botswana competing last year, right? So we are predominantly just South Africa. We don't really include the rest of the regions because I think it's a ping problem. Once again, you're right back to that issue. Because we actually have South African servers and like it's a bit of a that definitely affects it because a guy from Namibia gets like 50 ping and you're losing to someone that's on 5 ping sitting in Joburg next to the server. But yeah, I mean, that's one issue. And then there was a very cynical figure on Twitter as Comic-Con was going on. And he is a former player. I'm not going to mention him by name because I don't want to give him more attention. But he basically said like he would not be surprised if this is our last ever VS like LAN, right?
Wow.
And yeah, there's a reality, like a small chance that actually is the case because if you're looking at outside investment into the scene, it's not really there anymore. Even our viewership was down like quite badly this year, and yeah, it is a downwards trend generally at the moment, right? Which is it's bittersweet. Because I've reached the quote unquote peak of my like casting career, and now the scene's kind of dying. It kind of looks bad on me, truly, but that's besides the point.
I mean, the world is burning, but my house is nice.
Yeah, literally, it's like this is fine. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's up to the community now, and I think you mentioned it briefly, right? Where you have like people that are great at the game that are bad media personalities, and they're not willing to get more eyes to the scene, or they don't want to stream. Like we used to have players back in the day, Blaze, for example, for anyone that follows ZSCS back, you would know what I'm talking about. Blaze was streaming basically 8 hours a day. YouTube, everything, averaging like 5K views a video. He was doing good numbers, right?
Wow.
And there were multiple people that he brought to stream that came from a stream and started watching South African Counter-Strike just because they wanted to see this guy they watch on stream play. And we just don't have that anymore. So that the viewership's down tremendously. And I think Matt Hayes, who I'm assuming Bromeo knows, he put it the best way. I think he said like we're on life support right now and it's dwindling. The Powerball's extremely high. So yeah, I mean, putting an onus like that on it, like, it doesn't sit right with me. But at some point, you've got to face the music. So yeah, we are cooking stuff in the background. There's some community events going on. We are trying to copy what you guys have been doing on this side. Telkom is trying. So yeah, I mean, there's some hope, but generally we are on life support at the moment.
I just want to jump in here just for a moment because I kind of want to talk about a point that me and Bromeo have talked about before and we've touched on, is the fact that the other fact of the matter is that SSACS doesn't really have anywhere to go, right? Like you can qualify for online tournaments, okay, but you're always at a ping disadvantage. You're never considered for these kinds of events. And when you look at the globe as a whole, right, you've obviously got EU and NA and SACS is probably the biggest three regions. You've then got Asian CS, which has had a little bit of a resurrection with the Mongols being so good, and Tyloo,
Mongols, and the Australian roster.
And exactly,
they counted EMEA or Oceania, sorry. Yeah, they added into that.
So then you got OCE as well, right? So everywhere else in the globe is kind of covered and represented at most of the big tournaments. Certainly the majors, they're given a fair crack of the whip. SSA feels like they're left behind a little bit, and it's very different to the way that obviously Rocket League works, where we've got worlds which every single region on the in the globe has the opportunity to send at least one team to every tournament. And do you think that is part of the reason why CS in SSA is taking such a nosedive?
I think there's two inherent issues here, right? ESL forbids you from playing in a tournament above a certain amount of ping. That's problem number one, right? So we're sitting in Counter-Strike. I think ping is, I don't want to say it's the worst of any game, but there's no lag compensation that you have in Valorant was better. Even like Fortnite's fine-ish, like that type of thing. You can still try and compete. CS, there's just no way. You're going to get swung at 1,000,000 miles a second, and it's going to be all over before the server even interp that you peaked, right?
Yeah.
Or were peaked. So that's problem number one. And then problem number two is we can't reliably play against international competition. So bar the tournament thing, you can't scrim a team from EU and improve yourself and test your metal against these players because one, they're not going to play on that ping or play against that ping for that matter. But the bigger problem is we have had opportunities to qualify to bigger lands, right? Like we 2022, I think Nixa, I believe, made it to ESL Rotterdam. They were knocked out first round. Like Nixa had a massive expense getting them over there, and they just got absolutely rolled by a subpar, like a B tier EU team. It's because we can't. Even if you're the best in the country, that doesn't mean that it translates at all to international Counter-Strike. And that's kind of where we're sitting at now. So the bigger issue is more that we're at the southern tip of Africa, which is not something we can change unless Pangea decides to make a comeback or something like that.
But chat, you just heard your first ever geography joke on on this podcast.
I mean, we aren't dumb. We're all dumb over there. A lot of us are, but not all of us. In the Counter-Strike world. But yeah, I mean, we have had opportunities to make it to bigger tournaments. We've had the opportunity to qualify into majors. In fact, we've had a South African team at a major. Bravado made it 1 year. That's why we have Bravado stickers in the game. 2016, I believe. I don't know how many. I don't know if lately still. Yeah, he might remember. But it's happened. But they go out first round. You can't reliably compete. We've got players, right? Like JT, for example. He's playing for he was playing for Complexity.
Oh, of course. Yeah, JT. Yeah.
Sonic is playing for NOG right now. They just won for Fragadelphia. So we have players that are like quality players. It's just we can't get a reliable roster in to an European event and hang. And it's not. I'm not blaming the individual talents. It's because we can't reliably keep competing or keep scrimming against EU teams. Like they've got that week boot camp, for example, that they're there, and now magically you have to compete with a European team, or you have to compete with a. I think even if we could go to NA, it would be better. But we are competing in Europe every time because we just get grouped in with Europe, thanks to ESL. Yeah. And the other issue is you guys like Rocket League has they kind of take people from they'll take a team from a country, a team from a region, right? There's like 16 teams that qualify for the major from Europe, and then like 8 from NA, 4 from Ocean, like the Australia, that region, New Zealand, and then 4 from Asia. So you're already at a disadvantage because they don't take every region as equal. They already know European CS is where it's at, and if you go look at the standings, I mean, do you understand why they think like that? So. Yeah, I've hopped on for a long while now, but basically it comes down to the fact that we're at the southern tip of Africa, and it's impossible to find anyone willing to play against to better us. So,
and just in case you weren't following on, he was actually not talking about Rocket League. And it's funny because SSA players on Rocket League will complain about exactly the same thing. And I think it's very poignant to mention this is because I feel where CS is at is where Rocket League was before we were given a path to Worlds, before RLCS came to SSA. And we were all sitting in the southern tip of Africa, just playing a couple games of Rocket League and just enjoying them and having our one competition a year. So I think we're in a very privileged position where I just look at SSA Rocket League right now, and I wanted to provide a counterpoint. I think I've been to between 6 and 8 LANs already this year for Rocket League. And I know that Vibes, you said to me that Comic-Con's pretty much the only one for Counter-Strike.
Yeah, professional LAN.
And I think it's so poignant because, you know, we as gamers, we love to complain about the disadvantages we have. And we love to complain about the things that we don't have. And right now, Rocket League on the southern tip of the African continent has never been brighter. We've got varsity leagues. We have high school leagues. We've got multiple high school leagues, actually. And at every single level of competition, we have a league. We have a LAN. And, you know, before we go around bashing the fact that we can't compete on the world stage, well, sure. That's fine. That's understandable. But as the player base grows and as time goes on, we'll do a little bit better. And that's why I'm so optimistic about where our region is. And, you know, despite all the doom and gloom about the European invaders, sorry, Pig, sorry, Rhino, you know, no offense to you Europeans. You're the good Europeans.
Yeah.
And I think that is, you know, so valid that we've got so many issues still, because there will always be issues. There will always be ping issues. There'll always be DDoSes. There'll always be hackers. There'll always be an issue that we will be upset about. You know, the state of the game, the fact that there's no Rocket League 2. You know, that Fortnite's going to come and ruin us all. But at the end of the day, we've got so much to be grateful for. And for the fact that you can sit and play, you know, Rocket League competitively at any time of the year, and for it to count for something. So that for me is the biggest part of it. And unfortunately, you know, it's that is the negative side of, you know, being in Africa, is that we are uniquely challenged in that regard, is that we can't exactly just go and play on another server.
But I've got to say, Bromeo, it's so refreshing to see someone with such like an optimistic outtake. I mean, we've only because we've spoken with Greybeard over the last few months, right? We were there for RLCS. We were there in the green rooms. And like he needed a holiday to Europe to completely wipe away all of the damage that had been done to him mentally from the RLCS season, which is totally fair, right? When you look at it at that top level, some would argue that the SSA Rocket League is actually in a worse place than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because it's not an SSA team representing them on the world stage. That being said, you do also have to factor in everything that you've just said. There is a groundswell. There is a moment right now where high schools are getting more invested into esports, into Rocket League. These younger players, we're talking the highball boys, we're talking, the youth players, Guns as well, who's been in chat, right? The players who haven't reached their peak yet, haven't reached their full potential, and are still able to perform well at these points, and even the people below that who are still going to be able to put in the hours and bring things through. Like it's cool to get that perspective from someone in the region and see that it's not all doom and gloom and SSA is just kind of packing up. There's work being done to make sure that the SSA region not just gets stronger but remains as strong as it currently is.
Well,
I mean, I just want to mention, right? Sorry, Bromeo, sorry. I just want to mention on that note, right? I think the one advantage that Rocket League genuinely has is anyone can play the game, and South Africa compete from any age, right? CS is just not the case because it's inherently an R-rated game. So HCL, for example, you have to be grade 10 or 16 and older to be able to compete in Telkom's high school league. So you have this really short window where you have to fall in love with Counter-Strike in high school. And then if you're good enough, you're going to go compete after that, right? Mm-hmm. And you have this grassroots building up of the Rocket League players. And I've seen it happen. Like I know a few people, thinking, for example, Snowy, I believe, was in Kiro Armandus, if I'm correct.
Man, you're throwing down law I didn't even.
I'm pretty sure.
Let's go for it.
Fair play.
I was in a Kiro school as well, so I know he's been competing since, I think he's around my age. He's been competing since 14, 15, which is you can't do in South African Counter-Strike. And then again, you guys have wonderful people in the community that are willing to do tournaments and grind through everything to then get even a smidgen of prize money at some point. And you guys have players that are willing to play even if they're not gaining anything monetarily at the end, which we just simply don't. Like, our players are just steadfast on the fact that we're not going to play if there's no money involved. So, yeah, that's my final negativity.
I do think that there are similarities there. A lot of the good players will still only play if there's bank on the line, but that is what it is. It's the state of the game. It's the state of pro play. And, why should they? They are professionals. And that is the way it is. But before we head on to the next topic, which we're going to be talking about the upcoming Worlds in Lyon. And honestly, I feel like people have been sleeping on the Kings of Leon joke because there hasn't been one so far. And honestly, I feel like one of the casters are saving it. We got to play a drinking game. If somebody mentions Kings of Leon once, you have to go, oh, Bromeo said that, and then take a drink. But before we move on to that, there is a little bit of sad news I want to cover. You guys have probably seen it on Twitter already. Let's just bring it up there, please.
Set himself up, but unfortunately not able to finish the job. Now Max has
with heavy hearts, Limitless announces its closure, marking the end of an incredible
that could have been the craziest little snatch away, but no, he somehow manages to twist and turn his way straight past Scrappy, maintains control of the ball over top of Mo to get the ball straight through.
Past and present, whose creativity and commitment shaped our success.
Slow down, I am married. What a shot was that?
Inspired us daily. To our fans, your unwavering support fueled our drive. And finally, to our investors, thank you for believing in our vision. Though this chapter closes, the memories we've created together will live on. Thank you all for being a part of the Limitless legacy. So, boys and girls, Limitless has left the building. Immediate thoughts, boys.
Devastated. Absolutely devastated. I mean, from my perspective, Limitless, you know, coming into SSA kind of last year mainly, they were the shining light of the SSA region, right? They were the organization that were kind of doing everything from inside the region and making sure that everything was done the right way, and that team was the best SSA team that we had to offer to go against the European invaders. And unfortunately, you know, things happen, and we're at this point. But yeah, I mean, I saw this news, and it feels like a blow, not just to kind of the esports scene, but specifically to the SSA esports scene.
And Pig, I know that you've also been involved in SSA esports, and I mean, even if you're not, Limitless has been to Worlds a couple of times. You know, they've been all over the place and supported our best team for a while, which often, you know, it leaves you the question when an org disbands, what's going to happen to the players? Do they stay as a team, or do they just, you know, split and go to the wind? So having a look at To Die For, Snowy, and Sweaty, do you think they're going to stick together as a team, or do you think that they are going to pot for the wins?
It's so tough to call because obviously it gets a lot more complicated when there are contracts involved. There is going to be that bit more freedom being outside of that limitless branch now. And honestly, they played together for so long that I think it'd be quite hard to break them up, whether they all continue playing. Of course, you do hope that that's going to be the case, but that's also a factor that you've got to consider here because I do really find it tough to believe that if there's not a huge change in the RLCS rulings, 2/3 rule, what other org is going to come in and take that place of Limitless? I mean, they were the org you would think of. I know that Rhino can probably attest to this. During those Swiss stages, this was the team you were biting your nails at between confirmations of your matchups. This was the local talent that you didn't want to play against, like you said, the final chance, I guess you could say, against the invading Spaniards and the likes. And without Limitless here and a potential for, who knows, maybe even more Europeans coming over and trying to take those higher spots, it isn't the guaranteed place at Worlds for these orgs anymore in SSA. And I feel like for the most part, that's what it was for them. They don't get the mainstream. They don't get as much advertisement. Of course, shout out to African Gaming because they've been around forever, and Greybeard and the likes of yourself. Those are the people that have been holding the community up, and simply that's just not going to be enough for an organization in an esports space that's like this. And with the players, that will have its ripple effect. How much of a ripple effect that is, whether we see retirements, whether we see roster changes, or them stick together, you can never be fully sure. But it's definitely going to loosen the glue a little, I guess you could say.
And it's going to be a tough one. Limitless have left a void, which is going to be difficult to replace. But I have heard whispers on the wind that big things are coming. So,
and I think that's important to mention as well, Bromeo, by the way, is that the king has fallen. There must be a new king, right? There will always be someone to take the spot. There will always be someone to come through. Is that Genesix? Is that Cosmico? Is that Deathcloud, who are doing fantastic things right now? Like the opening now for SSA organizations to take the whole region by the scruff of the neck and say, we are the next Limitless. We are the next people who are going to drive forwards SSA Rocket League into the new kind of era, or 2026 and beyond. It's there for the taking. So I personally want to see, I mean, Hybor as well, who are starting to build up a groundswell of support as well. Yes, okay, I'm going to bring them up a lot because, you know, they were my team, whatever. But the point still stands, is that, you know, there's a gap, there's space at the top of the tree, and someone's just got to climb the highest.
I agree with that completely. There's so many orgs doing the work currently in the scene, and especially the likes of Cosmico, PNJ, Unity, all the local orgs who've been putting in the time. So sad to see Limitless go. They've done very well by our top flight players, But do not lose too much hope. There is always somebody waiting in the wings to lift up again, because this is SSA. We go large. So, speaking of going large, let's turn our focus to Worlds. And this is going to be held in Lyon, France. And I know that you, Rhino, have a very special interest in this. Just take me through your feelings over it. Do you have any, teams that you're backing? What we should be looking out for?
Well, funnily enough, the whole thing about Worlds is very interesting, because one of the biggest tweet replies I've ever made was actually on a post about Worlds. And Pegasus knows what I'm talking about, probably. I don't know if you'd seen it, but there was a post basically going out like, what is your ideal grand final? Okay, what is the grand final in your mind that you're like, oh, that's the one I want? And I couldn't think of just one. I had to put down 3 answers, because A, it's completely unpredictable, but B, there are so many different ways I could go about answering that question. So the first one is, obviously you've got to think for the home fans, for Lyon itself, for the French massive. It would be incredible to have Carmine Corp versus Vitality in the grand final. I mean, that's what everyone's dreaming about, right? That's the grand final everyone wants to see. The second thing is obviously for the storyline. You'd want to see Falcons versus Vitality, right? Monkey Moon trying to get revenge on the Saudi players from EWC. You want to see, that kind of Vitality resurgence after losing out on the World Cup. And then for me personally, and this might be a little bit disrespectful on this stream, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I don't care. I would love to see the Ultimates versus Virtus Pro in the grand final. Get a minor region to the grand final. Sphinx can do it. The Malaysian lad. Give him space and he will cook. All right. I've got full faith that VP are at least going to make it through the play-ins. Whether they will get past the group stage, whether they'll get to the grand final, I'm not convinced. But I think VP have got the pieces there to at least make some description of a run through those play-ins and hopefully get to that group stage. And hey, if we go big, if we go all the way to the grand final, cause a load of upsets, then I will be here every step of the way.
And you raised a very valid point, and I was following the news in the week. Johnny Boy was even responding to this as well. Carmine Corp took a little bit of umbrage to the fact that they might not be able to release smoke grenades in the stadium. And, I was thinking, honestly, how much of a vibe were you planning on creating that you got upset and felt that you needed to release a statement to the public to say, I am upset that I cannot release blue-colored smoke into confined areas? So I completely get it. I know I'm making light of a very serious situation, because those Frenchmen, they love supporting esports, and Rocket League is absolutely massive. And if you haven't seen what the Blue Wall does, you haven't seen esports. So just for the pure passion for the lore, I feel like Carmine Corp, Team Vitality, they've got to make a deep run just so that they can make Lyon the biggest Worlds Rocket League has seen, because it deserves it. And I feel like this is long overdue. And with that said, Peg, do you have any favorites, anyone that you're following?
Of course, Rhino already mentioned them, but I got to back the boys at Virtus Pro. I love those 3 players to bits. Of course, Sphinx, the superstar as well. They're going to look to recover after that last EWC performance where I wasn't very happy with how they played, and I don't think they particularly were either. We all know they're capable of a lot more than that. But elsewhere around Genji, they've got my favorite player of all time, Justin. Before I ever got involved with production, that was the grand finals back then that I was put into tears to once he finally got himself a championship. If it happens for a second time, I'm going to be extremely happy. I want to see it against a French team as well. I feel like if the grand finals doesn't have a French team, That's almost a waste of a world championship in France. I mean, we've been waiting for it for so long. We might as well get it. And we've already seen how the French fans are like in Lyon. There was a Fortnite event, I believe, in the very same arena. And those Gentle Mates fans are unbelievable. And we know that Carmine Core and Vitality can live up to that as well. If you can Poznan for Fortnite, imagine what you can do for Rocket League. And that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely true. And Vibes, I'm not going to leave you out because you are not an aficionado of Carball. But based on if these orgs, and I know some of them are in CS, if this was a CS tournament, which of these teams would you back to take it?
Listen, I know Vitality across the board in all esports at the moment are they're close to the top, if not the top. I know in the Rocket League they're probably a top 3 team in the world right now. I think I'm correct in saying that. Then again,
I'm not gonna correct you.
People argue.
You are
I know
they
were very dominant last year, right? If I remember correctly. Anyways, Vitality were by far the most dominant team in Counter-Strike for the duration of CS2, basically. And I know how the French get. Listen, if there's one thing, I watch football religiously as well, and I know that translates over towards everything. So, yeah, the Carmine Core Vitality final, I know it will be cinema. But then, yeah, I'm also like an underdog. Yeah, everyone likes a good underdog story. So, if it's a French team and everyone's favorite underdog, I think that's basically the same outcome. But a French show off, probably the best. I think if it's a French thing, I'll be in stream supporting. Probably will be anyways, because I do tend to watch the big events of most major esports. But yeah, I mean that would be ideal.
I just realized.
Let's go.
Definitely are.
I've got to put forward one more thing. Just one more thing.
I feel like we're on the same page with this one. You go first, though. Yeah.
I don't know if we are, but for me, a ninjas in pajamas Redosin run from play-ins right the way through to the grand final.
Oh, that would be cool.
I mean, NIP versus Vitality grand final, Redosin versus his old teammates. I mean, if the script writers are out there, that's one to consider, because that would go crazy.
That would go pretty damn hard. And what I wanted to say was completely unrelated, in fact, and I was actually wanting to see if Vibes had even noticed it, but up on screen, you see we do have an SSA representative. I'm not sure how clued up on law you are.
I'm fully aware that it's not a South African team. Trust me, if there's one thing I'm aware of, it's the Spaniards coming in and robbing our spot.
Yeah, so at least you don't have to worry about the Spaniards coming in and taking your Counter-Strike land.
Oh, they just take players. They'll take like our base players, and they're like, "Okay, come guys, you can play EU now." And of course, the player's not going to say no.
Yeah.
So SSA is actually sub-Spain Africa. I think. But yeah, so. Yeah. One of the biggest reasons most of us will be watching would just be for those early rounds. If they make it to television, then we would love to see them, go down in a valiant sweep. So that is.
Would we? Would we like to see them get to television?
No,
I don't think so. I think this is going to be one of the most generational hate watches of all time.
Oh yeah,
it could not get bigger. It could not get bigger. Even Counter-Strike knows. Even Counter-Strike knows.
Yeah.
But so that is also even more of a reason to watch it. It is happening this week, and I'm just trying to figure out how this one's gonna go, because we could have done a power ranking, but right now EU is on top. We didn't even mention the fact that there are NA teams as well. I mean, hey NRG, hey Gen G, Space Station, you guys are great too. Don't mind. But you also had to fly a pretty long distance to get to this Rocket League event. So I've just got a very strong feeling that the home ground advantage is gonna go absolutely mental in this one. So I'm just trying to think now. What else do we need to cover? Rhino, is there something that I'm missing? Because there's a couple of topics we needed to talk about. And right now, I'm doing a very bad job of pulling the run of show from the chat.
I'm very busy.
Yeah, it's been one of those days. Let me just have a quick look see.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think as far as run of show goes, I think we are all good. I don't think there was too many other things that we were discussing.
I think there was something about differences between the EU and the SSA community. You may have mentioned to me last.
Yeah, like that's
between
something I did want to
RSC.
mention.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we covered it, you know, superfluously with vibes. You know, the difference between CS and Rocket League. But you know, Rocket League community, we've got so much going on here that I was wanting to find out what community is looking like in EU currently. Is the general feeling that the game is getting better? Is it getting bigger?
Oof.
And you know that for
Ouch.
me is, or are we just coasting in EU?
You know what? It's tough to say. My gut reaction, I don't know if this is the same as you, Pegasus, but it feels like a little bit of a stalemate between the players and the developers as far as like we're stagnating. Do you know what I mean? So obviously CS:GO had some rejuvenated, you know, situation when it became CS2, right? We had updated graphics, we had a couple of changes to the gameplay. Players had to essentially yeah.
Sorry. I wasn't a fan of the jump, but that's just my that's me playing the game for 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're so used to playing CS:GO, right? That like CS2 comes along and you're like, well, it feels like a completely new game, but all of the core mechanics are there. It does very much feel like Rocket League needs to do that now in order to get more interest, in order to get more people invested in the scene and in the esport. Because as it stands, again, I don't think it's growing. As far as an esport goes specifically, maybe the game is getting more players, you know, and I'm sure Epic will point to those kinds of numbers and be like, hey, look, we had a higher player base last month than we did the month before. If it's not equating into esports viewers or players or talent or whatever it happens to be, then from our perspective here on this desk, it's a little bit irrelevant, right? Because you know, RL CS isn't going to get any more viewers. We're not going to get any more funding. We're not going to be able to do any more. And then we just go around in this cycle again of the whole thing being underfunded and people having less interest. And then, you know, you're underfunding it more because the players aren't interested and you're not getting the viewers. And then you kind of spiral downwards and downwards. And we don't want to see that. But that's where we are right now.
So yeah, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but you think there's going to be such a decline in EU that SSA is going to start exporting players to your region to take up your world spots?
I'll let Pegasus take this. I don't want to get rage baited.
Absolutely. I'm sure it'll happen one day. Listen, everything that can happen will happen in this wonderful universe. But on that same question about EU, as I freeze in a really flattering spot. Oh, hello, I'm back. I think it's really tough to assess EU in general. I would say if we want to look at it really objectively at the likes of RLCS, you can see clearly there's less organizations. You're not seeing it go as deep as it used to. You're getting a lot more orgless teams making those top 8s, and sure, there are lots of upcoming players here, but they're not exactly getting the same paycheck that they may have done a few years ago. You know, I think thinking back to COVID times, I feel like those were the glory times when it came to money into esports. But as well, there are so many little pocket communities, and I think this this is what makes Europe specifically unique to any other region, is the vast array of languages, the vast array of communities that's included. So, for example, myself and Rhino have our good friends as part of a Finnish community, and they seem to always have a LAN going on every now and again. They even had one for hoops, which is just unbelievable to think about in any other region. You've got your French community, which
no, wait. Let's park the bus on that one. Let's park the bus. Let's unpack this. Okay, so you're telling me
insane.
that somewhere in Finland there is a professional hoops community that get together and just shoot some ball.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
And you're a part of this, even though you're not Finnish.
No, we're not. We're not a part of it.
No, I'm not a part of it.
Know that it's sort of like Fight Club.
I've competed there. Yeah. But unbelievable. That has sponsors. That has a community behind it. I know that. I want to say Luxembourg. They've got Poppy Sports Masters, which occasionally have their own lands. You just go to the venue, they try to run a stream for it, and that has something going along. However, there are communities like Rocket Benelux, which have had a tumultuous few years in the scene. They used to consistently have their Dutch stream, their English stream. They got a wonderful overlay. Those used to run very commonly as well, with really good prize pools. And then they had to go on a break. Then they had to do downsizing of staff. And they came back for a bit. Then they even made a LAN for the later stage of the Benelux. And it's gone again. It's not a time for stability here in the scene, and it was quite sad to see that go. But if there's one thing that we can always count on, is that the French will always find a way to live on. So I think it's tougher to make an assessment in EU than it is SSA. I would say overall, probably a decline. I mean, there's less orgs. That's what you'd look at. But there are little places of hope, and Italy as well. I want to shout out Italy because they're having a bunch of fantastic players come up through the grassroots, and they have their own lands as well. So it's up to essentially a lot of these nations leagues, which I don't think we quite have to the same level here in the UK right now.
Giving Italy a little bit of a shout out here, because we don't know too many good Rocket League Italians, and
right.
at the cost of insulting every pasta loving Rocket League player ever, love Italy, love what you guys do over there. Wine is fantastic. I just didn't know too much about the Rocket League, and so big ups to the fact that they also contribute somewhat to the Rocket League economy. So I think, and this is the big one, is that Rocket League has gotten to a point in South Africa where it is now at every single level. It is at school level, it's at varsity level, it's now at community level and pro level. And, everybody's sitting at home. It doesn't matter where you are, you can play in a Rocket League tournament now. And when I originally broached this question to you guys, I was reflecting back on to the South African scene, and I know we covered it with what's going on in CS, but when so many things are really, really inconsistent, I know that every Monday night we're going to sit and we're going to talk about some Rocket League happening here in the SSA. That's for certain. Every Thursday night, there's going to be a broadcast where we play some of the community's best Rocket League. And for 6 months of the year, we get a path to pro. And for as long as that's happening, I can't see too much wrong with what's going on here. And yes, we'll complain that rightfully there's a couple Spaniards chilling in France right now when, they shouldn't be. But there's also the argument with, once our player pool gets better and we can fight them off, then good. We need the practice. We need more people to come here and test us, So there's good things and bad things, but ultimately I think there's so much to be hopeful for, and so much to look forward to. And this is where I want to speak on what Counter-Strike is going through and what they're dealing with. Is it's so relatable. We deal with ping, we deal with European servers, we deal with Europeans in general. We got Europe.
Nice to be on the show, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Thanks for saving us, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Rhino.
So my
sorry,
my
guys.
point is that there's so much SSA is doing right. And we're doing some really, really good stuff. And I'm so deep in my monologue that I completely missed whatever it is that Vibes is losing his mind over.
he went, yeah, Rhino, and pointed at the flag.
Oh,
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, there's my long sweeping monologue derailed. So you guys are welcome.
Sorry.
Fuck you both.
Sorry.
Yes.
Dick.
We got him. We got him.
Wow. What a douche.
stuff.
What a guy. All right. No. It's cool. It's cool. Rhino, do you have a long sweeping monologue you want to do?
No, I've done my long sweeping monologues for the day. But I do want to bring Vibes back into the conversation and kind of, we've obviously just gone on for quite a while about the difference between EU and SSA and kind of what that looks like. I mean, are you seeing similar things in CS? Do you feel like there is, obviously there's not that high school kind of level competition, but where there is competition, does it feel that high level? Does it feel accessible?
So we have high school, mind you. Okay, I think I misphrased this because it's on me. So we have a high school tournament. In fact, we had high school at Comic-Con, right? Like, our casted 4 teams made it. Interestingly enough, a team, Parklands, which is a school here in Cape Town, they had 2 teams that made LAN, right? So there was about 24, somewhere between 24 and 30 teams competing. And they had 2 teams that qualified, which is pretty cool. But you can only start playing from 16, right? So you've got this very short window where you can actually form a team and get better as a team. So that's problem number 1, and that's just, you can't get away from that if you're looking at Counter-Strike. It's just the nature of the game. The other issue is when you get to that pro level, right? You take the next step, you make the Masters finals, as we call it, right? Like the top 8 teams in the country that qualify to LAN. There's such a big disparity between number 1. Look, we saw this, right? You've got number 1, Bravado. Bravado won 3-0. They won a BO5. Now, if you've played any form of Counter-Strike, you understand that winning 3 maps of Counter-Strike that dominantly is absolutely insane at LAN level. And then you've got Kitsune, and Kitsune, they were like second, but they got beat 3-0 in the finals. And then you have like 2 teams that can kind of hang with these Oaks, and then it's just a steep drop off again. So you've got this like upper echelon, number 1 team in the country, no questions asked, no one can touch them. You've got 2 that like sometimes does something to them, but not really ever when it matters. And then you've got 3 and 4 that like kind of does something to 2 here and there. And then you've just got the rest of the country that can't touch any of them. So you kind of have a lack of competition in South African Counter-Strike right now. And that also adds to the fact then you get right back to the thing of like a casual player. Why would a casual player go and they see Bravado in the tournament listing and they're like, oh, but we're just going to lose. Like, there's no point. And
Sure.
I think there's more of an ego problem maybe in the South African Counter-Strike scene where a player doesn't like losing to a better team, which I have my opinions about that, and they're very explicit, and I won't go into them. If you're going to get destroyed, get into the server and get destroyed. You're going to learn something from it. But besides that, yeah, I think there's a competition problem. And then we're facing a very similar problem, maybe at a smaller scale, but we're facing an org problem in South Africa as well. Like, there's just an inherent problem where orgs are dying one by one in South Africa. For example, you guys still have WRG presenting that has a Rocket League team. We had a WRG roster in Counter-Strike for many years. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 10, probably like 2014, 2013-ish to like 2022, 23, so 10 years. We had a WRG roster. They pulled out of Counter-Strike completely because no one could touch the top team. So they were just like, oh, we're not going to stop fielding. We're going to stop fielding a roster. Omnius Gaming lost their CS2 roster right before LAN. Like, there's no support from an org level, which makes the players less likely to play, which then just directly screws the scene over in a absolutely astounding fashion, as we're seeing. And then you get right back to that life support statement. So yeah, I mean, my monologue once again is a sad one, but we face very similar problems at very similar. I'm not going to say very similar levels. The scale is much smaller, but that also means that your requirements to get into the scene and be an organization, quote unquote, is so much lower, and you just don't have people doing it.
And we're seeing a whole bunch of people following. Thank you so much. And we're seeing Pin, who I also met at the LAN, also heavily involved in CS. I feel like there's quite a few people, JMT lately.
That's probably for my tweet.
Yeah, no, all of you boys, thank you so much for following here. Greybeard is going to be really chuffed. This is his channel.
Yeah.
If you guys don't follow, also I don't mind. It's not my follow, but it is how it is. And speaking of orgs and speaking of LANs, there is the one LAN I want to remind you guys of, is that Landenbosch is coming, and it's less than a month away. On the 4th of October, we are holding a community LAN in Stellenbosch. That's why it's called Landenbosch, because it's silly, and I love that. And so it is free for anybody to come. You don't have to be signed up to RAC. You just need to enjoy a good game of Rocket League. So if you do want to come and you're planning on coming from far, click on the link I've just posted in chat and indicate that, hey, this is a great idea. And yes, Rhino Cos, I can see you want to say something. And I will come to you right now as soon as I've further finished extolling the virtues of this glorious LAN that we are going to be hosting. So make no mistake, this is the first LAN, community LAN, that I feel we've ever, had the privilege to hold for, no other reason other than it's awesome. And it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Preparations are deeply involved. Prizing has been secured from some of our sponsors. We're not going to tell you what it is because we want you to come to the LAN first, not based on the glorious prizes that are going to be given to you should you perform well for this LAN. So I am so chuffed that this thing is growing bigger and bigger. And honestly, a LAN was part of our 5-year plan, not our next month's plan. And for things to have gone this well, I feel like there's a counterbalancing issue. There's a patch that needs to come out and it needs to nerf something. I feel like there's a big issue there. But overall, LAN is coming. It's less than a month away. Mark your calendar, 4th of October in Stellenbosch. PRG are hosting us. And Paul Roos Gymnasium. And there will never be a day that I don't say it in that accent because I love it.
It's the accent you have to say it in, truly.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it's not just going to be a 3v3 tournament. We're going to have a 1v1 as well. So vibes, I'm not saying you'll do very well, but you're more than welcome to come. That'll be an absolute jewel. And Rhino, tell me why you had your hand up.
Can't call it Landenbosch, Stellenbosch. Come on.
Stellenbosch. That's
It's
so
right there.
much better.
It's right there.
Stellenbosch.
That's so much better.
It's
right there.
So clear.
Because in Afrikaans
come on.
you say Stellenbosch as well, so it's already it's in there as well.
Stellan.
Yeah.
Damn.
Romeo,
Yes.
that
Please
lovely
don't
speech.
come up with something awesome.
That lovely
Don't come up with
speech
another
you
thing
just
to
did,
undermine my
Romeo.
leadership. Sorry, what
We'll
were you
cut
saying?
it out of the
What were you
final
saying?
edit.
I'm
Go
not sure
again.
what you're saying. I can't hear you.
Go again, Romeo. Go again. Start again.
Yeah,
Replace
do the whole.
name. We'll cut that
Yeah,
out
you
got to
do the whole monologue again.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, so all of the logos and all of the hard work that we've done so far, calling it Landenbosch, it's now Stellenbosch.
Gotta be.
You assholes.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. But okay,
Yeah.
it is now Stellenbosch, and I'm so angry. I'm furious that it was right there the entire time.
It is right there.
It's
We were such a good
it's
note.
only
On
obvious
such
when you
a
hear
good
it.
note.
It's only obvious when you hear it. But
Man.
I am upset with you, Bromeo. You're normally the puns guy.
I am the wordsmith usually, and that one caught me from left field. So I am sorry, chat, that you had to see me looking so vulnerable in this state. But I will be announcing my retirement later on Twitter, which is what happened whenever a pro yapper or Rocket League player gets cooked in
Yep.
some form or
That's
other.
how it
So
goes.
yes, the retirement tweet is coming in hot. But boys and girls,
Two big losses for South African Rocket League in the Limitless and Bromeo.
Yeah, honestly, and Limitless did some cool stuff too. Don't don't make it. Don't compare them. It's unfair, to
Yeah,
them.
I know what a big loss that is
Yeah,
to
no.
the country. It genuinely,
Yeah.
no.
But I know that there's been a couple whispers in chat of us doing shoeies. It
Us.
would be no wait, sorry.
Yeah.
I
hang
mean,
on.
I was possibly contemplating it, but could we do a shoey in the memory of Limitless? I feel like that's the right thing to do.
The American org.
Yeah, the American org
Yeah.
who pulled out, and look, Desolation's in chat. He is Genesis Extreme. Genesis Extreme is our broadcast sponsor for RSC. So he says a full production shoey at the end of the event. Yes, I would love to. And I am Brymaster, so I'll be making making sure your voice is soft and juicy. And Desolation is going to make sure that we do shoeies as well. And Rhino, please withdraw those eyebrows. They are causing much consternation.
just bringing attention to the phrasing. That's all. Nothing more.
Crazy. But yeah, there's so much to be excited for, and unfortunately, shoeies are not one of them. It's a Monday night. I couldn't bring myself to rightfully do it, even though my wife, put the shoe in front of me because temptation is her. She wanted me to put this whole 500 milliliter beer into this shoe and then drink it. But honestly, the reason why we're not doing it is because I didn't get the Johnny Boy stamp of approval. Nobody said we could, and for that reason and that reason alone, we shan't be doing it tonight. So, barring anything else, I think that brings us to the end of the stream. Vibes, do you have anything you want to bring other than vibes? Is there anything? Closing words you want to say?
I try. Yeah, I mean, I think something you've been trying to be the positive voice. Let me try my best. I think the fact that Rocket League and Counter-Strike, we have that opportunity to at least still have a LAN at Comic-Con. It's something that shouldn't go understated. The fact that even though we have our technical issues with each other, the fact that we can be next to each other, enjoy horrible coffee together, and kind of interface as probably still the two biggest esports in South Africa, you have to say something about it. And I'm glad that at least, even if it is possibly the last year for Counter-Strike or whatever I was saying earlier, there was the opportunity to go to Comic-Con and see the teams compete. But yeah, I mean, South African esports has always been a grind. It's always been a battle. It's always been pro bono work until one event a year comes around. And yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure being on, interfacing with the Rocket League Oaks a little bit. I know we're worlds apart usually, so the unison of the two scenes isn't a bad idea.
And it was going well until you said interfacing. Like, what is that word, bro? Interfacing. It's like it's so corporate.
You don't know business lingo.
Yeah, I'm not in with the business lingo.
You interfacing.
You know what I did with my boys last night? We interfaced.
Yes, literally, you interface with the consultants. That's what you do.
He's a branding creative guy. He's not a business guy, Vibes. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I study accounting, so I'm boring as shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. Sorry, we're at the end of the stream. It's fine.
Oh man, honestly, if we get enough votes in chat, we'll put interfacing as the title for the next episode because that's what we do. We interface apparently. So, boys and girls, this has been absolutely fantastic. We do need somebody to raid. I don't see anybody online who is actively playing Rocket League. So I'll take any suggestions if we have anybody online, if anybody in chat knows of anybody who we should be raiding, all 41 of us. That would be awesome. But otherwise, Rhino, thank you so much for joining me tonight. So Pig, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And obviously, thank you, Vibes, for bringing the vibes all the way from CS. And I'm so sorry that you have to play that game. There are far better games like Rocket League. But
I sadly
ultimately,
agree.
yeah, I don't judge you for your faults. And that makes us a better community all round. So thank you all for joining us tonight. This has been a nice, long episode of Just Saying. And I look forward to having you boys possibly again next week once we overthrow